3 years ago, I changed my will. I didn't tell my children. I didn't leave a note. I didn't ask anyone's opinion. I didn't warn them it was coming. I just changed it and waited. I'm 81 years old. I worked for 45 years. I built something. And for the last decade, I had been watching, quietly, carefully, how my children behaved when they thought money was involved. What I saw told me everything I needed to know. The moment my youngest found out I had changed the will, not what was in it, just that I had changed it, she didn't call me. She called her brother, and then her brother called me, not to ask if I was okay, not to ask if something was wrong, to ask what I had done. What happened over the next 6 months showed me more about my family than the previous 30 years had. I'm going to tell you exactly what I did, and exactly what it revealed. Because if you have children, and you have anything to leave behind, you need to hear this before you make any decisions. Let me be honest about what led to this. I am not a suspicious man by nature. I spent my career trusting people. I raised my children to be honest. I believed for most of my life that the people who loved you were exactly who they appeared to be. Then my wife died. Eleanor passed 4 years ago, after 52 years of marriage. And in the weeks after her funeral, before I had finished grieving, before I had figured out how to sleep in a quiet house, the conversations started. Not cruel conversations, not greedy conversations, careful ones, considerate ones, about the house, about what we might do with the property, about whether it made sense for me to stay somewhere so large on my own. My son Richard suggested I consider a smaller place. He knew a good realtor. My daughter Karen mentioned that she and her husband had been looking at a particular neighborhood, near good schools, for when they had children. My youngest, Daniel, asked if I had updated my documents recently, just to make sure everything was in order. They were not wrong to think about these things. I understand that now, but I had buried my wife 11 days earlier, and not one of them had asked how I was sleeping. I filed that away. I didn't say anything. I just started paying closer attention. I want to be precise about this, because I don't want to be unfair. My children are not bad people. I need to say that clearly. They are not villains in this story. They're ordinary people who love me, and who also, like most ordinary people, think about money. But I started noticing a pattern. When I mentioned I was thinking about donating a portion of my savings to a cause Eleanor had cared about, a small charity she'd supported for years, Richard went quiet in a way I recognized. It was the quiet of someone doing arithmetic. When I told Karen I was considering giving my father's watch to my nephew Thomas, who'd been close to my father in a way my own children hadn't, she said very carefully that she thought Thomas might not appreciate it the way someone closer to the family might. When I floated the idea of leaving the lake house to a friend who had spent every summer there with us for 30 years, a man who had no family of his own, Daniel said he was sure I would make the right decision. And then he said it again, 2 weeks later, unprompted. None of this was dramatic. None of it was ugly, but I began to understand something that I think most parents discover too late. Your children have been making quiet calculations about your estate for longer than you realize. Not out of greed necessarily, out of human nature, out of the very reasonable assumption that what you built will one day pass to them. The question I found myself asking was this: do they love me, or do they love what I represent? And I realized I didn't fully know the answer. So I decided to find out. I went to my lawyer on a Tuesday morning in January. I changed 3 things. First, I redirected a significant portion of my estate to Eleanor's charity, the one Richard had gone quiet about. Second, I left the lake house to my friend Walter, the one Daniel had diplomatically discouraged me from leaving it to. Third, I added a condition to everything else, a simple one. Any child who contested the will, for any reason, would receive nothing. Then I went home. I told no one. I made dinner. I watched the news. I went to bed. 3 weeks later, my lawyer sent the standard acknowledgement letter to the address on file. Karen intercepted it. I know this because she called me within 2 hours of the mail arriving. She hadn't opened it. It was addressed to me, but she had seen the return address, and she knew what it meant. That phone call was one of the most clarifying conversations of my life. She didn't shout. She didn't accuse. She was warm, concerned, careful. She said she just wanted to make sure I was okay, that she hoped I hadn't made any big decisions while I was still grieving, that she was only asking because she loved me and wanted to protect me. I listened to all of it. Then I said, "I'm fine, Karen. I appreciate you calling." And I waited. Over the following weeks, each of my 3 children found a reason to visit. Each conversation, in its own way, circled back to the same territory: my health, my clarity of mind, whether I had been under any pressure, whether I had spoken to anyone who might have influenced me. Not one of them asked about Walter. Not one of them mentioned Eleanor's charity. They asked about themselves, about their inheritance, about what I had done with what they had already, in some quiet corner of their minds, begun to think of as theirs. I want to tell you what happened after that, because this story does not end in bitterness. That is important. I sat with each of my children separately, and I told them what I had done and why. Not to punish them, not to shame them, to show them something about themselves that I thought they needed to see. Richard sat quietly for a long time after I finished. Then he said, "I didn't realize I was doing that." I believed him. I think he genuinely hadn't. Karen cried. Not about the money, about what I had seen in her. She said, "Is that really how I seemed to you?" I told her, only in moments, and I told her that the moments had passed. Daniel took it the longest. He is the most like me, stubborn, private, slow to admit things. But he got there. He asked me one question that I have thought about almost every day since. He said, "Did we make you feel like you were already gone?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "Sometimes, but I understand it. I've done it too, to people I've outlived." That conversation changed something between us, something real. I did not change the will back. Walter has the lake house. Eleanor's charity has its portion. The condition about contesting remains. But my children know where they stand. And more importantly, they know where I stand. I am still here, still deciding, still the author of my own story. And that, more than any specific line in any legal document, is what I needed them to understand. I'm 81 years old. I have 3 children who love me, imperfectly, the way most people love. I have a will that reflects what I actually value, not just who shares my blood. And I have something I didn't have before I signed those papers, on that Tuesday morning in January. I have clarity. about who the people in my life are, about what matters to me, about how I want to spend whatever time I have left. If you have something to leave behind, and most of us do, I would ask you one question before you decide anything. Do the people around you love you, or do they love what you represent? You might be surprised by what you find out, and you might be grateful, as I was, that you found out now, while there's still time to do something about it. I'll see you in the next one.